All right, guys, so this is our Chapter 3 study guide. I'm going to just try to talk promptly so that this video isn't 50 years long. So angle 1 and 3, their relationship is a linear pair because the two angles are adjacent and they make a straight line. So linear pair, angles 2 and 7, well, these are your parallel lines, even though they don't look parallel. Or just your two lines, period. And they are alternate exterior angles. They're on opposite sides of your transversal and outside your parallel lines. Sorry, just trying to get some highlighters here. A little noisy. And then let's talk about angles 5 and 8. Well, 5 and 8 are simply vertical angles. All right, and angles 3 and 6, they would be inside your parallel lines, right, or inside your lines on opposite sides. They would be alternate interior angles. Okay, and then we will move on to angles 4 and angle 6. Those are same side interior angles. They're inside your parallel lines on the same side of the transversal. And angles 1 and angles 5, well, that is in the upper left-hand corner of these four angles, and 5 is in the upper left-hand corner of those. They would be corresponding. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's solve for x here. All right, well, these two angles are congruent because the lines are parallel, so in order to solve, I'm going to just set them equal to each other. So 35 equals 2x plus 3. I'll subtract 3 and subtract 3 and get 32 equals 2x. I'll divide by 2 and divide by 2 and get x equals 16. For these, this one's a little bit trickier. I'm going to solve for y first. All right, and because these are vertical, I'm going to set them equal. So I'm going to say 47 equals y minus 2. So I'll add 2 and get y equals 49. All right, so if this equals 49, then I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. So I see that these two are corresponding, all right, and I'm going to set them equal. So here's x. For x minus 5 equals 47. All right, and I'm going to add 5 and get 4x equals 52. Divide by 4, and get x equals 13. Well, these two angles, the relationship is a little tricky. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find this angle by recognizing that this angle and this angle are same side interiors. So I'm going to take 180, because they need to add to 180, and subtract 136. All right, and I'm going to get 44. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, now that I know this is 44, I'm going to set 3x minus 2 equal to 44. 3x minus 2 equals 44. I'm going to add 2 and add 2 and get 3x equals 46. 3x divide by 3, x equals 15.3. All right, I will move over here to this one, and I will see that these are corresponding angles, so I can simply set them equal. 27 equals 2x plus 5. I'm going to subtract 5 and get 22 equals 2x. Divide by 2, x equals 11. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. Okay. So it's all about looking for your angle relationships and what you know in those. Now I'm going to look here, and it says using the diagram below, solve the following problems. Show all your work. So the first two I'm going to look at are angles 1 and 2 because that's what they gave me. and they want me to solve for angle 6. So this is going to be a bit tricky. The first thing I'll do is take angles 1 and 2 and I'll set them equal to solve for x. So 5x, because they're corresponding, minus 7 equals x plus 17. I'll add 7 and I'll add 7 and I'm going to subtract x and subtract x. I'll get 4x equals 24. Divide by 4, divide by 4, x equals 6. Now I need to solve for angle 6. I'm going to plug it into angle 1 because these are vertical angles. So I'm going to do 5 times 6 minus 7. So 30 minus 7 equals 23. All right, and then we're all set. And now, let's see if I can get this to focus a little better. Nope. Look, we're going to look at 12 and see that angle 1 is 5x plus 10, and angle 4 is 45. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to recognize the angle relationships here. If angle 4 is 45, all right, then I'm going to go ahead and find what 6 is because they're same side interiors. So I'm going to do 180 minus 45. And when I do that, I get 135. All right, so now, because I know that this is 135, and I know what angle 1 is, I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I'm going to say, hopefully you were able to see that work being done, 5x plus 10 equals 135. I'm going to minus 10, and get 5x equals 125. And I'll get 25. So then we move down to number 14. All right, and it says that the measure of angle 1 is 130, and then the measure of angle 8, right down here, is 4x minus 2. Well, what I'm going to say, or see, is that angle 1 and angle 6 are vertical angles. And then angle 6 and angle 8 are corresponding. So I can actually take 4x minus 2 and set it equal to 130. I'll add 2 and add 2. And I'll end up with 4x equals 132. I'll divide by 4 and divide by 4 and get x equals 132. Then right here, for angle 7, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to plug it in. So if I know, well, actually I don't even need to plug it in because this is kind of a nice thing that happened here. This is 130 degrees right here. These two form a straight line. So in order to find angle 7, I would do 130 and subtract it from 180, and that would give me 50. So I know this is 50 degrees. Guys, moving back to number 3, I made a mistake. I only solved for x. I need to solve for angle 8, so I need to take that x and plug it back in. So angle 8 is right here, all right, which is actually the same as angle 6, because they're corresponding angles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 25 that I found. Sorry, this is number 13 I had to jump back to. And I'm going to do 2 times 25 plus 8. Well, 2 times 25 is 100, plus 8 is going to be 108. And that would be your answer. Maybe if I turn this off, that gets a little better. Nope, still blurry. Okay. The next thing it says is angle 3 equals 72 degrees. Find the following. Find angle 1. Okay, so if this is 72 degrees, then angle 2 would be 180 minus 72. Which should be 108. All right, and then we just solved for angle 2 because they are corresponding. So that is 108. And we also solved for angle 8 because they are vertical. So that is 108. All right, well, we look at angle 3 as 72. We know that angle 7 is 72 because they're alternate exterior angles, so 72. And then we can also look at angle 4, and that's 72 because they're vertical angles. And then we look at angle 5, and we see that they're corresponding, so angle 5 is also 72 degrees. And I look at angle 6, and I see that it corresponds with angle 8 or is vertical to angle 1, so I know that it's 108. All right, number 16 just asked me to find the slope. Remember, this is x1 and y1, x2, and y2. All right, I'm going to do 6 minus negative 4 over negative 2 minus negative 3. Remember, two negatives make a positive, so I'll end up with 10 over 1, which is simply 10. All right, there's the first 16. Still going strong. All right, again, we're going to find the slope. All right, remember that that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, guys, you need to have this memorized. This is slope. So again, I'm going to subtract the 2. Here's x1, y1, x2, y2. 8 minus negative 8 over negative 3 minus 7. Becomes a positive. That becomes 16. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. And I'm going to reduce. They both go in the 2, so this is going to be 8 over 5 and negative. Negative 8 over 5 should be your answer. All right, write an equation of a line that has a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of 3. So remember, slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. This would be our slope, and our y-intercept is right here. So I will simply write y equals negative 4x plus 3. All right, this one says write the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, negative 1, and has the slope of 5. So I'm going to use point slope this time, which is y minus y1 equals my slope, m, times x minus x1. Okay, so using this slope and this point, I'm going to go ahead and fill out this equation. Y minus negative 1 equals 5 times x plus, minus 2. I need to distribute that 5. I'll end up with y plus 1, because two negatives make a positive, equals 5x minus 10. I'm going to subtract 1 and subtract 1. I'll end up with y equals 5x minus 11. Again, same thing here. Write an equation of a line that passes through this point and is parallel to this line. Parallel means that they will have the same slope. So my slope here is negative 1. Remember, m is the symbol for slope. So I'm going to take this point and this slope and put it into point slope and then put it into slope intercept. So y minus 5 equals my slope, which is negative 1, x minus negative 3. All right, well, these become a positive, and I need to distribute. So I end up with an equation that looks like y minus 5 equals x plus 3, plus negative 3, because even though this became a positive, my slope was negative 1. I forgot both of my negatives here, so don't forget your negatives. All right, now I'm going to add 5 and add 5 to both sides, and I'll end up with y equals negative x plus, because a negative 3 and a positive 5, plus 2. All right, now let's look over here. Write an equation of a line that passes through this point and is perpendicular. Perpendicular means we need to look at this slope and then do the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite would be negative, right? And then reciprocal would be 1/3. So negative 1/3 is going to be our new slope. And we're going to use this point, 3/4. So I'm going to use my point slope again, y minus 4 equals negative 1/3, my slope, times x minus 3. I'm going to distribute and distribute. I will get y minus 4 equals negative 1/3 x plus 1. And now I'm going to add 4 to both sides and add 4 to both sides, and I'll end up with y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. That would be my answer. Sorry that I kind of slashed through that. All right, what's the slope of the line? The slope of the line is always in front of your x, so that would be 4/3. What is the slope of the line parallel to it? Would be the exact same slope, so also 4/3. And the slope of the line perpendicular, remember it's opposite, so it's going to become negative. And then we flip it, so 3/4. Okay, the slope of the two lines are given. Are the two lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? All right, this would be neither. Neither, because even though they're reciprocals, they're still both positive. So they can't be perpendicular. And this one would be perpendicular. They are opposite. One's positive, one's negative, and they're reciprocals. Okay, so let's go ahead and answer 25. Is line AB perpendicular to line CD? Work must be shown. Justify your answer. All right, so let's find the slope. This is going to be x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. All right, I'm going to do negative 2 minus 4 over 2 minus negative 3. So I end up with a negative 6. This becomes a positive. 2 negatives make a positive over 5. There's one slope. And then let's do this other one. x1, y1, x2, y2. 2 minus negative 3 over 8 minus 2. 5/6. Again, this is a negative. This is positive. That checks out. This is 6/5. This is 5/6. They're reciprocals, so this would be perpendicular. All right, are these lines perpendicular? No, because the slopes aren't opposite. They are reciprocal, but the slopes, because slopes aren't opposite. All right, they are reciprocals, but they aren't opposite. And then are these lines perpendicular? These are like the ones we did in class today, okay? So you've got to solve for y. You have to get y alone. The first thing I'm going to do is move this 4x over. I'll end up with 3y equals negative 4x minus 2. Divide by 3, divide by 3. Y equals negative 4/3 x minus 2/3. Okay, so negative 4/3. Now I've got to do this one. So I'm going to add 6x and add 6x. I'll end up with 8y equals 6x plus 7. I'll divide by 8 and divide by 8. Y equals 6/8x plus 7/8. I'm going to reduce this, which is getting really hard to read, by 2. and that's going to be a positive 3 over 4. So one of my slopes is positive 3 over 4. The other one is negative 4 over 3. Yes, they are perpendicular because they are opposite reciprocals. All right, this is positive 3 over 4. This is negative 4 over 3. All right, now we're asked to graph. Well, we start with graphing with the y-intercept, which is a positive 3. So I'm going to go up here and plot that point. From that point, it's negative. So I'm going to go down 1 and over 2. Down 1 and over 2. I'm then going to take a straight edge and connect my points. All right, this line is going down. I didn't quite stick to my dots. And my slope is negative. So I graphed it correctly. This one, I need to go ahead and change into slope-intercept form. All right, so I'm going to subtract 3x and subtract 3x, and I'll have negative 2y equals negative 3x plus 6. I'll divide by 2, negative 2, divide by negative 2. I'll end up with y equals 3 over 2x minus 3. I'm going to start at negative 3, 1, 2, 3, plot my point, and then go up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2. And notice, sorry, it's a little hard to graph with this straight edge. My slope was a positive, and my line is going in a positive direction. Okay, last page. Hooray! So, these are my parallel lines. All right, here is a transversal that cuts through. Oops, it would help if you could see the problem. Because this is 60, angle 1 would also be 60, because they're alternate interior angles. Because this is 60, this is 70, and all three of these form a straight line, I would add 60 and 70, and I would get 130. Because they form a straight line, I would take 180, that straight line, minus that 130, and I would get 50. So angle 2 would be 50 degrees. Angle 3 would also be 50 degrees because they're alternate interior angles. Angle 4, I would keep in mind that these are parallel, and this is also a transversal. So I would know, if knowing this is 90, I would know that angle 4 would also have to be 90 in order to add up to 180 and be same side interiors. So, sorry, just trying to find the right spot. So angle 4 ends up being 90 as well. And then I look at angle 5, and I think that if this is 90 and angle 3 was 50, all right, and this is a triangle, I would do 90 plus 50, all right, and I would get 140 degrees. And because this is a triangle, I would take 180 minus that 140, and I would get angle 5 equals 40 degrees. Okay, let's move on to this problem. It says that angle 6 equals x, and angle 8 equals x minus 20. Well, this is a triangle right here. So what I would do is I would highlight it to let me know that it's going to add up to 180 degrees. I know that this is 90, so I know this would be 90 also because they form a straight line. So I'm going to take the 2. I'm going to work on this one first, and I'm going to add what they gave me, 90 for this angle, plus x minus 20 equals 180. I'm going to combine like terms, and I'm going to end up with 2x plus 70 equals 180. I'm going to subtract 70, and I'm going to get 2x equals 110. I'll divide by 2 and divide by 2. X equals 55. So up here, x equals 55. Oh my goodness, you can't see what I just did. I'll leave it there so hopefully you can see. Okay, then it shows us that right here, angle 7 plus angle 9, which again is along a transversal, which means if this is x and this is 3x plus 20, if I were to add them together, they have to equal 180. So over here, I'm going to take x, because they're same side interiors, plus x plus 20 and set it equal to 180. 2x plus 20 equals 180 minus 20 minus 20. 2x equals 160. Oh, I messed up. This is a 3x, so this would be a 4x. And a 4x, divide by 4, x equals 40. So for this problem, x equals 40. Okay, for number 3, we're looking at 8 and 7. Well, these two are alternate interior angles, so I would set them equal to each other. I would do 3x minus 8 equals 2x plus 10. I would minus 2x, and I would minus 2x, and I would add 8 and add 8, and I would get x equals 18. So 18. And then here, angle 6 and angle 9 also alternate interior angles, so I would set them equal as well. 8x minus 9 equals 3x. I would end up with I would end up with negative 9 equals, oh goodness guys, I did that one wrong. My bad. I was looking at 6 and 9, it's 6 and 7. Well, what I know about 6 and 7 is that together they form a right angle, because ignore this line for a second and see that this is 90 degrees. These two angles all right here would be 90 as well. So I'm going to take 8x minus 9 and add it to 3x and say it's equal to 90. I would end up with 11x minus 9 equals 90. I would add 9 and get 11x equals 99. Divide by 11, x equals 9. All right, for number 35, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, which of the following is not necessarily true? Each pair of same side interiors are congruent. We don't know if they are congruent or not. Okay, so let's move down to this one, which as I walked around and stamped, I saw a lot of you guys had left it blank. Right here it tells us that ABC, this angle, this whole angle is 120 degrees. So if I want to find angle 1, I'm going to take 120 and I'm going to subtract 34. That's going to give me 86 degrees. So now I know this is 86 degrees. All right, well, angle 1 and angle 3 are alternate interior angles, so I know that that's 86 degrees as well. Okay, so what I want to think of now is that here we go. Okay. If this right here is a triangle, you won't have one this challenging on your test. I would add these two numbers together. I would get 54, right? I would subtract them from 180, and that would give me 126. So this angle right here would be 126 degrees. Okay, bear with me for a second. I would then want to find this angle right here because they form a straight line. So I would do 180 minus 126, and I would get 54 degrees. Yes, 54 degrees. Okay, so now what I'm going to do to find angle 5 is know that this is 54, this is 86, and again this is another triangle. So I would do 180 minus 86 and 54, which would be 140, and I would get the angle 5 is 40 degrees. That's angle 5, which isn't on here for some strange reason. But then I would look and see that angle 5 and angle 2 are alternate interior angles, so this would also be 40. And then, if this, I'm going to look now at this triangle to help me find angle 4. If this is 126, then this is 126, and if this is 34, then this little angle right here is 34. I would then again, I would take 126 minus 34 and subtract it from 180, which would be 160, and I would get 20 degrees. So angle 4 would be 20 degrees. Okay, almost done here. All right, well, what I know is that these two angles add up to 135 because of the exterior angle theorem. So I'm going to do x plus 55 equals 135. I'm going to subtract 55 and subtract 55. And when I do that, I will get x equals 80. So I know this is 80 now, and I see that this is a straight line. That's a linear pair. A straight line equals 180 degrees. So in order to find y, I would do 180 minus 80, and I would get 100 degrees. And then the last one, I might have to zoom out for this. The measure of the largest angle in a triangle is 3 times the smallest angle and 2 more than the third angle. All right, so these 3 angles together are going to add up to 180. All right, we're going to say that the smallest angle is x, right? The next one is 2 times, right? And then the third one is 3 times the smallest angle. So we have 3 times the smallest angle, 2 times the smallest angle, and then just our smallest angle. We're going to combine like terms, and we're going to get 6x equals 180, and x is going to be equal to 30. So then we think about it, and we think that then our smallest angle, equals 30, our medium angle equals 60, and our large equals 90. And you guys are done. It's only 33 minutes. I tried to be fast and communicative at the same time. Hopefully it worked. We will go over whatever questions you have in class tomorrow. Bye, guys.